Hello, number ones, and welcome to Metatron's Academy. Today we have a very special channel to check out, and I'm really looking forward to this. So, a lot of you have been telling me about how good Simon Roper is as a content creator and about the quality of the information that they present. Now, letting the channel introduce themselves, I make videos mainly about topics in linguistics, but occasionally about anthropology in general. Me and a few friends produce comedy films and sketches, some of which will probably be published soon. I had previously used my university email address here, but I am using personal. Okay, I don't care about that. So great, fantastic. There are a lot of videos that look really interesting, and I'm really looking forward to check it out. And naturalism in defense of body. Wow. Okay, so the one that I feel interested towards is this one, a reconstructed anecdote in 1390s Middle English. And in fact, it seems to be a video that did exceptionally well considering the average views of the channel. And I'm very happy about that. And I've recently made my own video on Middle English, and I'm producing a video on Anglo-Saxon or Old English, which will be released soon. I apologize that those take a little longer to be made. But in the meantime, listening to someone I've been told is really good, talking about Middle English, so the English spoken in the Middle Ages, if you will, I'm really excited about it. So let's jump right into it.
This is the English Dialect Survey. For the first time, we've managed to travel back in time to procure a recording of Middle English. So this is an anecdote from William Shaw from the Kent-London border, recorded on the 15th of May 1390.
At Trumpington, not far from Canterbridge, there stand a mill upon a brook, and the miller there was prude and gay as any peacock, and strong. His face was round, flat nose, skull as pillid as an ape. He was a thief of meal and corn, and this is where I thought. His name was Horton Simkin. And then were the twa young clerkes, poverty young clerkes, and they crew upon the wardain to give him leave to go to mill, and they durst lay her neck, the miller should not steal him any corn. They were Horton, John and Alain, and they were born fair in the north, he cannot tell where. And at the mill, John lightly doing the sack, and spark Simkin, "Be me lief, who knew, what do you here?" And quoth John, "We hope to grind oor corn, he pray you spare us heden that ye may." And quoth Simkin, "It shall be done, what will ye done while it is in hand?" And quoth John, "He will stand richt by the hopper and say who that the corn goes in." He never saw yet who that the hopper wags till and fra.
Wow. Like, I wanted to let him speak, and I'm going to continue to let him speak, but I do want to offer a little bit of commentary. And wow, this is amazing. I could understand a little bit that they're speaking about a mill, corn, and other. Now I forgot, but like, was there a thief involved? I don't know. Anyways, I understood a little bit, but it is difficult to understand. Some words are absolutely recognizable. The name John, of course, and the way they're speaking, I believe, about their farm and production. A lot of it is lost. I'm interested to see if he's going to provide, and probably he will after this recording, perhaps the text, because if we see it, I believe that a lot of this, the problem is the fact that we're not used to the way things are pronounced. Clearly, Middle English, while it is closer to modern English than, say, Old English, and perhaps some aspects of the Great Vowel Shift of GVF were already starting to occur, still, it is a lot more Germanic sounding, isn't it? And the idea that medieval people, of course, there would have been class distinction between the way the upper class and the lower class spoke, but still some medieval people would have spoken like this. Isn't that incredible? Let's continue.
And quoth Alain, "John, will thou swear, then will he be there?"
Will you be there?
Say who that the mail falls down into the trough. And quoth he is as ill a miller as are ye. And thought the miller all this but for a wheel. Thought the miller, the more crackers that they make, the more will he steal. And he goeth out at the door, and found the clerk's horse he bound behind the mill under the leather cell, and straped off the bridle. And the horse was loose, way toward the fen.
Okay, I want to see a couple of things. I am actually starting to understand more because I'm managing to focus, and I'm noticing that, of course, behind is still behind. So the step of the evolutionary linguistic step of the long E turning into I, like inside time. Yeah, these would have been seed, team, behind instead of behind. So I do recognize that. And also horse, of course, I understood that one, but laws instead of loose, because once again, it's a double O. Now, it's interesting because some words still preserve that. It's true that a lot of long E have turned into I, like spike, time, but we do have one that maintained, and it's machine. That never evolved into machine. So even though behind, to say behind, may sound strange to us, machine doesn't sound strange. And in fact, machine will be like what you're on about. So it really is a matter of getting used to it. And once again, laws, yeah, double O has gone into several stages of evolution. In fact, it's one of the craziest one. If you think about it, there is even though they're spelled differently, the way you pronounce good, moon, blood, flood, door, it's all double O. They all sound different, but in fact, the ones that are followed by an R maintain this concept. Door, floor. This one I'm starting to learn to understand more. Let's go.
Hello. These kinds of videos often get views from people who haven't been on my channel before. So if you haven't been, I'm Simon Roper. I've been making YouTube videos about historical linguistics for a long time.
Nice to meet you.
A couple of tangentially relevant degrees. I also make films, often with a focus on extremely naturalistic and accurate historical dialogue.
Love it.
And I dialect coach on films of various scales, where I've also sometimes incorporated some historical elements into the dialect. So every so often I'll do one of these videos where I try to present our best reconstruction of the pronunciation of a particular stage in the history of English.
Isn't it fascinating how different it sounds now that we're listening to modern English after GVS is fully completed? And then we were just, it's the same country and it is the same language.
And I'll try and do it through a very naturalistic anecdote or something like that. And I'd been watching, in the course of researching for videos, I'd been watching a lot of, or listening to a lot of, old dialect recordings from dialect surveys in the 50s, 60s.
They can be some regional varieties, they can be linguistically conservative and still preserved. Like this happens in Italy with specifically northern Sardinian regional languages that in fact maintain linguistic pronunciation patterns that are connected to classical Latin, and they still maintain them. And even in my own regional language, which is Sicilian, sometimes there are words and language patterns, and specifically syntax structures, that we also maintain from classical Latin, which is our parent language.
And sometimes even earlier. And often in these dialect surveys you have a rural speaker who's relatively old, just telling an anecdote in their own native dialect. And I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if we had such a thing from Middle English?
Absolutely.
Middle English is the period of English that stretches from roughly the Norman Conquest to something called the Great Vowel Shift. So very roughly from about 1150, well, earlier than that if you're being strict, sort of 1066 until 14 or 1500. And I think it's a very interesting period of English to do one of these videos on, because I think especially late Middle English, the kind of Middle English that Geoffrey Chaucer was writing in, is a point where it's just about not quite like any modern dialect. For this video, I wanted to be as idiomatically accurate to Middle English.
Before he moves to the next step, I do want to underline when he says that the way Middle English is, particularly prior to GVS, or perhaps in its early stages of GVS as well, is not alike or similar to any spoken dialect today, English dialect. But I think it's quite similar. I'm not correcting him. He's extremely competent. I like him a lot. But I'm saying, just to expand on what he's saying, in fact, it's quite similar to the way some people speak in other Germanic languages, which is why it sounds Germanic. Sometimes the pronunciation of Middle English is more natural to speakers of Dutch, some Nordic languages, Danish, some areas of German. I'm not sure about High German, but definitely maybe some Low German, possibly even High German in some instances. In fact, it's closer to the pronunciation systems of a lot of languages, including Romance languages. For me, when I'm thinking of how should I pronounce Middle English and Old English, apart from the Germanic flair, which is a very important component of it, maximal component of it. But when it comes to the vowels, I just tell myself, read it as you would in Italian. And oftentimes it matches, because all languages tended to do that. And English, in fact, has evolved in a way that is mimicking a little bit the way we in Italian evolved our consonant clusters as compared to how they were pronounced in Latin, and how we simplified our diphthongs. Vowels remained kind of similar. I believe even the split between open and closed vowel probably was already a thing between different ways of speaking Latin and articulating your vowels from the end of the Republic to the beginning of the Empire. Probably.
English speech as possible. So what I did was I went into the Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. I went to the Reeves Tale, which is one of my favourites, and I took a segment from the start of the Reeves Tale, shortened it, and tried to rearrange it so that it didn't rhyme and it didn't seem obviously like a poem.
Yeah.
And wherever I needed to bring in extra sentence constructions in order to do that, I tried to only use sentence constructions that were in the surrounding text.
Sounds good.
So I think this is certainly idiomatically appropriate to Middle English. Obviously, it's debatable how far Chaucer was actually using completely natural language.
Yeah.
You could easily imagine him choosing a word that a normal person wouldn't use in order to tide over the meter or something.
Not only that, but in general, poetic speech, literary speech, educated speech, these are all registers. And therefore, I'm sure that the way he did it would be believable, but it's also likely that there are some vocabulary choices that would have been rather uncommon. Not out of place, perhaps uncommon.
Although I think there is a case to be made that he was at least trying to make it resemble normal speech, because at times when he mentions that characters have particular regional dialects, he will often make choices in their dialogue that reflect those regional dialects. That's why I like the Reeves Tale so much, because John and Alain are supposed to be from the north, specifically from, well, he says he can't tell where they're from, but I think they're from like Strother, which I think is a place name from sort of County Durham kind of area in the far northeast of England. And there are things which appear to be northern dialect forms in their speech. I had thought about having the character performing the anecdote try to slip into a Middle English northern accent while he was reading these lines. I eventually decided not to do that because this video was taking too long to make, and
I can understand, yeah.
There are aspects of northern pronunciation that are a little bit shaky from that.
And plus, he seems to be a very meticulous individual, so I can imagine how that section took months to produce. I can respect that.
Time. But nonetheless, the northern dialect forms are still in there. One of the big choices Chaucer made in these bits of dialogue was using the letter A in certain words rather than O. In Chaucer's general prose, you get saw, fra, ga, and in the northern dialogue, you get swa, fra, ga.
Wow.
This is a commonly attested south-north difference in Middle English, as is the northern use of till rather than to.
That is fascinating, because instead in English now it's the opposite, in the sense that usually a southern accent will pronounce words such as glove, some, love, and in the northern English accent these are pronounced som, love, tof, glove. I did not know this, and it's incredible. All right, so as usual, my reaction videos, as a way to respect the actual original creator, I skip massive segments so that they act as a demo for people who perhaps discovered this channel. And so I would strongly encourage you, if you liked this, to go and check the original channel, give him a like. Normally I would have done a little more, but because he mentioned how long it took to produce this video, then even more so, I want to encourage people to watch the original video rather than my reaction to it. But I loved it. I think this is great. And it seems like, yeah, look, the last part is providing the actual translation. Not only is giving us the words, but he's translated it, I believe. And that's wonderful. That's great. So yeah, go check him out. Fantastic channel. Thank you for your work, Simon. I really appreciate your dedication. And to all of you, thank you for joining Metatrons Academy. Bye.